Thank you very much. I am so pleased and delighted to join you for lunch today. And we were thinking that when was the last time I came to Mobile, and I had to really scratch my head to really think about it. But it was actually related to the voter registration project in 1963. Mrs. Boynton and I, along with some other person, and I can't think of who it was, but I know that Mrs. Boynton would remember that she's 104 years old, and she has a terrific vault in terms of memory, and it's amazing that she has that. That was the last time I came to this area, and so I was very pleased. Oh, it's such a beautiful drive. It's coming from Montgomery all the way down, and we got up this morning about 4:30 and had breakfast, so I've already had my lunch much earlier, so I'm ready. I've just been tremendously impressed with what I've seen, and I've just arrived, and it makes me want to come back as soon as possible to learn more about what you're doing here in Mobile. Of course, Mobile has interesting history, and it needs to be really, exposed to other people, particularly when we think about the civil rights movement. And I've just learned a lot since I've just been here. So I think that we're off to a new start as well, because it needs to be part of the tours and that sort of thing that we have in the central Alabama area. So I'm excited about it also because I'm my former president and chairman of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. Joseph Lowry, okay, and he's doing well. Okay, he had a little fall in California, but he's still full of vinegar. Yes. Okay. Yes. So it's again it's delightful to be here with you. It's also delightful to have my wife, Kate Lafayette, here. I think she's from Tuskegee. Yes, her mother actually used to have George Washington Carver come by and help her with the plants and that sort of thing. Front yard. So they look at the front yard that George Washington Carver helped to cultivate. And I walk out on my porch. That's something? Yes. Yes. Okay. But her father is also very much a part of history because he was Booker T. Washington's office boy. And built the first public housing in Tuskegee. And the Propeller Club, okay? You see the Tuskegee Airmen and that sort of thing? Yes, she has relatives who are Tuskegee Airmen as well. So Alabama has its own unique history in many different ways, unlike some of the other southern states. It's no coincidence, by the way, that 3 of the major movements led by Martin Luther King was in Alabama, not Georgia. That is no coincidence, and I'll share some things with you, perhaps that might give you some, understanding of that. I'm going to talk for a few minutes, but I'm more anxious to hear your questions, and I'll share with you sort of short kind of survey of my own experiences in the civil rights movement and then we'll have some conversations. Okay? I want to hear that from you. Native of Tampa, Florida, born in Ybor City, across the street from the Half a Tampa Cigar Company. That was my front yard. And on the side was Garcia Vega's cigars. So I was surrounded by cigar companies, so I started smoking cigars at age 5. And then I graduated from the cigars to a pipe. I used to smoke pipe because my grandmother smoked a pipe. And I used to help her kill mosquitoes on the front porch, you know, at night. It was smoke. My parents didn't know it, my grandmother and I, you know. In fact, the book, she's one of the people the book is dedicated to. In fact, it's all women in my book. Dedicated, okay. Because I believe in women, okay, and I've studied them, and I'm an expert in women, so you can have any information you want, okay? Share that with you, all right? In fact, I know that I'm going to heaven. Some of you are trying to make your way, okay? And kind of wondering, you know, whether you're going to make it. I'm assured that I will make it. In fact, God wanted to make sure, so he sent me an angel to show me the way. I didn't eat as much ice cream as I want to at night. Yeah, okay. So then, well, men, let me just go ahead and confess this to you, so you're old enough to know now, okay, even the young people here. Women actually have more nodules on their brain than men. Did you know that? Yeah. The only men that have the equivalent of nodules that women have are jazz musicians.
Really?
Yeah. Because, see, you know, you can do several things at one time, multitask, and jazz takes much longer to teach someone to play jazz than, you know, than classical music. Some of you know that, okay? If you haven't told anybody about it, I know you keep it a secret. And I understand, but some things people need to know, okay? Because some women, they get confused, okay? They think that they are not, you know, that's not true, all right? I learned most of what I have learned from women, older women, okay? Yeah. Women can carry on 5 conversations among themselves at one time and go in and out. Is that true? Yeah, that's what I mean. Men say, wait just a minute. Could you just, that's what men do. They like to, you know, get, you know, right. But women have, I have 5 sisters, by the way, I watch them. And I studied them, okay, as they grew up and that kind of thing. Yeah. Men sometimes get confused because they think that all that talking that women be doing on the telephone, that yakking. No, buddy. You're not wasting any time. Women don't play. You know what they be doing when they do all that talking? Organizing. They be developing relationships, that kind of thing. All right? So that's why they, you know, when they get ready to do something, they already got things, you know. Yeah. Yeah. And see, the thing about it, we need to know that. So when you get ready to do something, then you know where to go get the resources and the talent and the experience. Don't fool around. Okay, don't play if you want to get something done. Yeah. Just like the Montgomery movement. We know it was Joanne. Okay. What's her name?
Miss Robinson.
Yeah, Joanne Robinson. Dr. Joanne Robinson. She was the one that sent out the notice that the boycott will continue past December 5th. Rosa Parks was arrested December 1st. The boycott was off with December 5th, one day. The ministers met after the boycott that day, and they were trying to decide whether to continue. Well, Joanne Robinson and her group of women had already decided. They put out flyers all over the place. Okay? Yeah. In fact, they had them spread so wide until the newspaper, you know, got a copy of it and was going to expose them. And put the doggone flyer on the front page of the newspaper so everybody would know about it. Expose their secret boycott. I thought boycott be secret anyway. Yeah. Rosa Parks? Yeah. But my point is, when I think about the challenges that we faced in the movement, I have to go back and realistically look at the contribution that women made to that. And so I want young women, okay, to understand that the burden is on you, mama. The burden is on you. You got to step forward and do what you have been doing. Okay? So how do I get involved in the movement? Well, I decided at age 7 that I would get involved and make a difference. In Tampa, this was good at the time, just like Mobile, we had streetcars, trolley cars, right? Called streetcars down south, trolley cars on the west coast and up north. Yeah. So, we used to have to put our money in the front of the streetcar receptacle, and then we had to get off and then walk to the rear and then board the streetcar from the back door. And sometimes the driver was preoccupied. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. And he would take off before we could get to the back door and take your money and leave you right in the street. So my grandmother and I ran ahead of her so I could try to hold the steps so that the door wouldn't close. And we could hop on the steps and be able to get on the streetcar. Because it happened more than once. I was 7 years old. Now my grandmother was a pretty hefty woman, and she was running, and she had those heels on, and the heel got caught in the crack of the the cobblestone around the track, and she fell. As I say, she was a hefty woman. My great-grandmother, her mother, weighed 500 pounds. And used to have to go to the scale down at the meat market, to get the weight. 500. Played the guitar, owned her own home, housing, partner, okay? All that kind of stuff. She was very independent, but she was a slave girl, little girl. She was still a slave. But she was very substantial in many ways. Well, I remember how I felt when my grandmother fell in the middle of the street. I was a little skinny boy, a little fellow, 7 years old. And I'm told at age 7, there's some experience that each person has that you would never forget, age 7. A deciding moment in your life you'll never forget. I know what mine was. Because as I reached for the door of the streetcar, and I reached for my grandmother on the ground, I couldn't do anything with either of them. I felt like a sword had cut me in half, and I was there stretched out. And I remember saying to myself, when I get grown, I'm going to do something about this problem. I couldn't wait to get grown. I don't even remember too much about childhood. I was so anxious to get grown. And it was for my grandmother. That's why I jumped in the movement. I dropped out of school even. The sit-ins and the freedom rides, I was on all that stuff. All right? Yeah. Because I wanted my grandmother to be able to experience what it would be like to be respected. Okay? As a human being. And to enjoy these things. I didn't think about grandchildren. I didn't even know I was going to make it. To be a father, not even a grandfather. It was my grandmother. that was the motivation for my involvement in the movement. Yes, I wanted her to experience it. So I got involved in the sit-ins. At first, I didn't want to get involved in those sit-ins. You know, they were having workshops about nonviolence and that kind of thing. I used to be the leader of a gang. You know, nonviolence, turn the other cheek. Yes, but what did you have in your hand when you turned the other cheek? Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I had to go that route. So, this John Lewis was the one that, you know, said, Bernard, why don't you come on to these, you know, we always talk about, you know, civil rights and stuff, and why don't you come to the workshops? James Lawson was giving the workshops. I said, man, I don't have time to go to these workshops. I'm already working in the shop. Okay? Yeah, I have like 3 jobs on campus. All right? Yeah. I was an assistant to the librarian. I used to be the janitor of the second floor dormitory. And I used to also wash pots in the kitchen. Now, you know why I wash pots, right? Yeah, because I like pot liquor. So I used to clean the pots. Clean them. That's what I did. Yeah, so I didn't have time for that stuff. But John Lewis prevailed over it. He said, well, why don't you just come one time and then just see what it's about? I said, okay, all right, I'm coming. And I got hooked when I got there. It made so much sense to me. This whole idea of being able to have a revolution of love. I believed in love, but I had no idea of what it could do in terms of change. I said, wow, let's hear more of this. So yes, sit-ins, and then when the freedom rides came, John Lewis and I both applied to go on the original ride. They wouldn't let me go because I was not 21. They said I needed parental permission. Okay, so I was the first one to go to college in my family, so I sat down the forms for my parents to sign, and I didn't hear anything. My parents, you know. So I called down there. I said, Daddy, did you receive those papers that I sent down a couple of weeks ago? He said, yes. I said, well, could you sign them and send them back to me? He said, do you think I didn't read them? I said, I was hoping he didn't read them. Just sign them and sell them, you know. Yeah. You know what he said to me? I'm not signing your death warrant. No. In fact, he told me when I got involved in the movement, this is going to be the end of the Lafayettes. Because I had all sisters. That was going to be the end of the Lafayettes. So his response to my involvement in the movement was to go back and get some more children. He did manage to come up with another boy. He kept going, he got another girl. So that's his response. Yeah, to the movement. So I do have a young brother who's over 20-some years younger than I am. Okay. Yeah, Michael. So it was a movement that produced Michael. Okay. Yeah, that's how he got here. Okay. So the reason I was able to get on the Freedom Ride is because after Anderson, Alabama, and the bus was burned and that sort of thing, CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, decided that they would have a cooling off period. Because the Attorney General asked that they would cool off for a moment until they could get some protection for us, because the protection that they had been promised did not come through. So, while they were cooling off, we took off. Those of us in Nashville. There can be no cooling off period, because we've been in the deep freeze too long. And justice delayed is justice denied. So that's how we left. Diane Nash. Okay, she was our spokesperson for the sit-in movement. So she was our spokesperson for this Freedom Rides. And it was because she was articulate, she could meet with the press, but more important than that, she was able to get consensus. She knew what to do with consensus. You know, the Quakers have this consensus thing going. Yeah, she was able to listen to all the different arguments and then synthesize and bring them together. That's what Martin Luther King was good at. Yeah, and I mean, Martin Luther King never chaired a meeting. No, he was president of the organization, he never chaired a meeting. No, he sat there, listened to the staff, Jose, Bevel, and Jesse Jackson, you know, Emory, they all argued back and forth and all that. He deliberately picked people who knew how to argue against other folk. Yeah, they agreed too much. Martin King said, "What's wrong with you? Did you hear what he said?" What you gonna say, Andy? Okay. So, once he heard all the different arguments, then he would synthesize. He was a Hegelian, and that's a philosopher who believed in the thesis, antithesis, that you can't really know your thesis until you're able to also understand your antithesis. You can't know one country unless you know two. Because it's by comparison, okay, and association and disassociation that you learn. So it's important. There's a process that Martin Luther King used when he picked that up and he spread it in terms of the movement. And it's applied in all of these different cases. The letter from the Birmingham jail, Martin Luther King articulates his opponent's position better than they did. Okay? So it's important that we know that. So, Diane was able to do that and do it well. And that's why we selected her. So male egos and that kind of stuff got out of the way because the movement was too important. But the best person that we could get who could do that and who we respected. And she was able to do that. So we risked our lives. We had to have the best spokesperson, best leadership we could get. Our lives were valuable. And we wanted to make sure that what we were doing would make a difference. So it looks like my job has been sort of the forerunner, all right? So I went on the Freedom Rides, and then I went to Selma, Alabama. Now Selma, when I went down to take my assignment in Nashville, in Atlanta, Georgia, James Foreman was our executive director. Now I helped to recruit him. He was a professor at Roosevelt University in Chicago. And he was willing to leave his professorship and come down to Atlanta and be our executive director. Because we didn't have any money, they had to raise money, that kind of thing. So, okay, he took the job. So when I went to him, okay, I was ready to take my assignment. And he said, what we need, Bernard, is somebody to go raise some money to help get Dion Diamond out of jail. Because he was out in Louisiana. And, you know, they were requiring $10,000 cash. No, you know, put up bond cash. And we had to get him out of jail. Because our position in SNCC is that if you got arrested, then we would have to get you out of jail. If we couldn't get you out of jail, then we would go and join you. Yeah, that was our commitment to each other. That was a pact. That's why you saw folks taking courage, because they knew they would not be left alone. They would not have to stand by themselves, because we would be there with you. Sure enough, I took off to Detroit to raise money, and then ended up down in Chicago helping to raise money. And the reason I had to go to Chicago is because the bond had increased to $30,000. You know why? Because Bob Zellner, okay, you know, the chairman of SNCC, had gone down to visit Dion Diamond, and then they got arrested down there. And you know what Dion Diamond was charged with in Louisiana? Because he was trying to get black folks registered to vote. Conspiracy to overthrow the state of Louisiana. And then when he arrested the other two, okay, they said, said, now we got the other conspirators. All right? So then we had to raise $30,000. So we finally got him out of jail. I came back to get my assignment. Hey, you know what James Foreman told me? I'm sorry, we don't have any more directorships. I said, what are you talking about? You told me if I went, you know, and try to help get him out of jail, you'd give me a directorship. Bob Moses was over in Mississippi, Charles Sherrod over in Southwest Georgia. Okay? Bill Hanson was up in Arkansas. So, you know, and he turned around and looked on the wall, and there was a map, and there was an X through Selma, Alabama. An X. They sent down 2 teams of SNCC workers to Selma, Alabama, what we call them counties then, Dallas County, and they returned independently with the same conclusion. Nothing could happen in Selma, Alabama. And the same reason. What's the reason? White folks are too mean, and black folks are too scared. Wait a minute. And we already had Montgomery, right? Birmingham is going on, okay? How is it that Selma, Alabama, it is so different? We thought Mississippi would, I could understand that part, you know. But Selma, what's this Selma, Alabama stuff all about? And then we went back and forth, arguing. He said, now look, man, if you want to go down there and take a look at it, okay, then why don't you go ahead and do that? I said, no, I don't want to take a look at it. I'll take it. If it's impossible, I'll take it. Selma wasn't supposed to happen. Okay? Now the first thing I did, and this is our training, and that's basically what I do now, set up nonviolent institutes to train people in nonviolence. Because the ability for people to manage conflict in a nonviolent way can determine all kind of outcomes on the job, in the family, in the community, okay? You name it. The ability to manage conflict. And that's what I train people to do. We established that. We got about 36 centers around the world, okay, where we do that. They're in full scale, okay? And even in 1975, I established prison programs. Teach people nonviolence in prison. It's called the ADP, Alternatives to Violence Project, okay? 50 countries, 30 states in the U.S. I just get things started and let them take off. Not going to someplace else, you know, let that go. So, when I moved into Selma, the first thing I had to do was to research where I was going to do the research. I ended up at Tuskegee Institute. You know why? That was the only place where I could go and be able to study white folk. Because I had to find out why were the people there, you know, so mean. Now we know about scared black folks. You know, we know what made them scared. You know what makes black folks scared? It's when they come to the conclusion that no matter what they do, change is not going to come. That's the frightening experience they have. And when they get scared, they make sure everybody else stays in their place. Yeah. White folks don't have to do anything else except get some scared Negroes. If you could do that, I mean, that's why they hung them in the tree, you know, so that people could see this is what's going to happen to you. So everybody said, look, hey, stay out of the trees, keep your mouth shut, and keep quiet. And that's exactly what the white folks wanted to do. Get black folks to keep quiet. That's why they hung them by the neck. They could have killed them other ways, you know, they did sometimes, but they wanted to, it's a chokehold. Stop breathing. That's the whole purpose of the noose around your neck. Stop breathing and shut up. I mean, you understand? I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. You know, the fellow up in New York. As long as he was saying he couldn't breathe, they kept choking him. Because obviously he was breathing because he was... It's the same thing. Okay? So I had to find out, what was it then in Selma, Alabama that was so different that made these militant, tough, slick workers go down there and come back and say, well, we can't do anything there. So the uniqueness of Selma, Alabama, and I'm going to come to a conclusion at this point because I want to get into some discussion, was that there were some characteristics, as it turned out, to be unique. One thing, as most of you know, since you're from Alabama or got roots here or been here long enough, okay, is that the first capital of Alabama was not in Montgomery. It was in a place in Dallas County called Cahaba. It's a ghost town now, okay? Cahaba. I think for 1 year it was in Tuscaloosa, capital. Okay? Now historians know more about it than I do, but I had to do a little research myself to find out what's going on here. Okay? So what I found out was this, that the reason I ended up at Tuskegee Institute Library is because that was the only library where I could go where they had a monthly publication of the White Citizens Council. Yeah, I had to study. Okay. White folk. Oh, by the way, that's one of my areas of specialization. Oh yeah. I know you. Yeah, I studied. You know what happened when I got to Selma, Alabama? I used to hear the white folks say, those low-down, dirty politicians stole our capital. This was in 62 and 63. They were still upset with the white politicians in Alabama who had voted to move the capital. And all those folks are deceased. And they were mad with the dead. Yeah, call them names. Okay? Yeah, stole our capital. At first, I used to go through the drugstore and, places around there, and the grocery store and be listening. And I thought they were talking about money. Stole our capital. Okay? No, I found out they were angrier with the white folks in Alabama than they were with the black folks. Okay? Yeah. Guess what? Dallas County was unique. They had bombs in Montgomery, they blew up stuff, and I don't know if they blew up anything around here, but they bombed churches. Birmingham, they bombed so many, the hotel, motel, one of those people, they bombed the church with the girls in it. It's all in Alabama now. No bomb in Selma. Not one bomb exploded. I know why. When I read this publication of the White Citizens Council, I found out that the council members met at the downtown bank boardroom the last Thursday in every month. So you have to look for patterns, okay, to be able to understand, all right, the forces that exist. Patterns is what you look for. Not just facts. Facts are helpful, but only if they're information. You line them up. That's what information is, when you line up facts in some kind of order so they make sense. So that's what I did as I studied. A couple of things, and then I'm going to stop. more white people got killed in the Selma movement than blacks. Why? I know why. Oh, by the way, you know those long batons that they used when they were riding horses and beating folks on the bridge and all that? They didn't buy those from the supply company for policemen and law enforcement. Those batons. They did not come from the supply company. There was a company there in Selma which was called the Selma Table Company. That was the name of it. The Selma Table Company. So those long batons were table legs. Yeah. And that's not going to be in the film because they didn't know, but they didn't talk to me about it, so you know the question. Yeah. And the policemen used to be able to go, and the sheriff, right, and the deputies, go and make their own baton on the lathe machine. And you put a steel rod in there, so when you hit these hard-headed black folks on the head, they won't break. All right? Well, the fraternities and stuff make their paddles, you know what I mean? Okay? So they made their long. Every white male who was 21 years old automatically a part of a posse. Sheriff's posse. Your mom. Yeah. You had about 300 on horseback up there in Ole Miss. Universities, but James Meredith, they went all the way over to Mississippi, horseback. And General Walker, remember he was leading that group over there? We tried to desegregate the University of Mississippi, right? Yeah. So, in other words, these people didn't just stay in one place. They helped, keep things in order a lot of other places as well. Yeah. But what you also need to understand is there were people in Selma, Alabama who were white who saved the situation in many cases. Yeah. The first mass meeting we had was at Tabernacle Baptist Church there on Broad Street in Selma, Alabama. We couldn't get ministers to open up their churches because they were afraid. Okay? And if they were not afraid, the members were. And that was enough to keep them, in check. Couldn't get a mass meeting. First mass meeting we had was when Mr. Boynton died. He was the one who was president of the Dallas County Voters League. And he was in the hospital, in hospice care for a long time. And he finally passed away. I used to stay up at night with him. The strangest thing happened. I'm sitting there on the side, and sitting in a seat there next to his bed. And there was some kind of strange feeling of transference that I felt. You've had these feelings, things come up around your shoulder and stuff like that, and go up your neck. Yeah, I could feel him. That's what these young folks used to say. I feel you. And the thing about him is that while he was laying up there dying, if somebody walked past his door, the door was open, he started hollering and carrying him. And they come back to see what's wrong with him. He said, "Are you registered to vote?" On his dying bed with his last breath. So when he died, we had a memorial service. And we put on the flyer, memorial service for Mr. Boynton and voter registration. Now, you coming to a voter registration rally or you coming to a memorial service? You're coming to both. That's the best way to memorialize this man, the voter registration rally. So, as we were gathered there in the church, people were trying to come. The posse had surrounded the church for 2 blocks, keeping people from coming. But the most critical thing happened that night as I was standing on the steps of the church, long steps leading up to the sanctuary there. A group of young white males who had some of those long bats, table legs, came up on a truck, open back truck. And they started jumping off that truck, getting ready to come into that church. And I was standing there on the steps, and I knew it was over for me. They had to run over me to get through that door of the church. And a miracle happened. A car pulled up, one passenger was parked in the middle of the street with the door open, car door open in the middle of the street. An old white man. And he walked up there and he said, "You boys get back on that truck and get out of here." Then he turned his back and walked as if they were going to do it. And they did. They got out of that truck with a sheepish look in their faces and drove on off. It would have been a serious riot in Selma, and it wouldn't have been the same Selma movement that we witnessed. You know who that man was? He'd been the football coach down at the White High School. They all know him. Yes. His name was Elliot Speed. I want his name to go down in history because he saved a movement. Because had those boys going on there with those sticks and everything, those black folks by now, okay, they had guns and that kind of thing, it would have been a massacre. Yeah, it would have been a massacre. Elliot Speed saved the beginning of that movement, which would have started out being a disaster. Yeah. Mr. Speed came in time. Saved the day. And I stopped